Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, our network is in its 15th year and listened to in over 30 countries. I would like to personally thank you for giving me the gift of your time. As always, it is my honor to hold space with you. And today we are continuing on our sequence of heat, essentially, right? So we started with talking about sun salutes. We continued with a guided meditation, kind of starting to bring the energy of the sun within, having that kind of reflective component between the energy that surrounds you and the energy of the sun, that solar energy, that life-giving force. And so, what better to talk about when we're going on to our nutrition limb? I'll go with limb to make the yoga metaphor a little bit more all inclusive and talk about spices. So when you're talking about healthy living, you're talking about being very conscientious of your diet, whatever diet protocol you choose. And I don't like to use the term diet in accordance with weight loss specifically, although that can obviously be a necessary and imperative health concern as well. But I'm talking about diet for well-being, as opposed to, I don't want to use the word vanity, but we all want to look and feel our best, right? So we're not talking about it from a place of shame, and we're not talking about it from a place of feeling less than. We're talking about it from a place of optimal health and what that means for different individuals. Not everyone can be vegan, even if they want to be. I'm one of those people. I would love to not ever eat another animal. I've been struggling with that more recently, as I think that I've shared a couple times, like, I do very poorly when I remove all red meat from my diet. And I always have. I start to get very low energy. And so when I was vegetarian for a long time, I would have a monthly, what I called my meat cheat. And I would have like a burger once a month. And I, would thank the cow. And I would be very upset about it. And every time I do eat any animal products, I feel a way about it. And I don't love the choice. But, there's an element of conscientiousness and choosing the healthiest option, choosing humanely raised, all of those things, being as kind as you can and as considerate to as you can to yourself and to the nature, the animals, the sacrifices that you make, the sacrifices, the ultimate sacrifice that they make for you in turn. And trying to do the best that you can within your means and within, your boundaries and your limitations with regard to what your body processes and how your body processes. And so, again, this is going to be a zone of no judgment kind of conversation. But when you're talking about, as I have, paleo, autoimmune paleo, which is paleo, but even tighter, even less, even more eliminations, even a stricter version where nuts and seeds are not allowed, for example, and that's gonna come into play here as well. Nightshades are not allowed on autoimmune paleo, and I know we've touched on nightshades before, but as it's kind of the counterpoint to our sunny conversations, our sequence of the sun in September. Gosh, I love the alliteration there. Think of the nightshades are, generally speaking, your potatoes, your tomatoes, your eggplants, your peppers, and I can't say all seed-based vegetables, and fruits, but so those are the heavy hitter nightshades: peppers, eggplants, potatoes, tomatoes. Those are like the main ones that you're going to come across in your day to day, and they, we'll do a deep dive, but that's not what I want to talk about today. I'm sure I will do a complete nightshade episode, but they are notorious for, creating inflammatory responses in the body, which is why if you're on an autoimmune paleo diet, those foods are specifically a no-no for you. Now, I have not gone that far, although I'm sure that I should, but I have not gotten that far because at a certain point it's about balance and you have to eat something and you have to kind of, be okay with eliminating many, many foods. And if that's a struggle for you, then, potatoes are my cheat. Potatoes are now my fantasy food that I love and that I eat. And I'm still specific about which ones I choose, but I do enjoy my potatoes as they are my last hefty carbohydrate that I enjoy to the very fiber of my being. But we're going to talk about spices. And the reason that the nightshade is going to be my kind of gateway to the spice conversation is because most of the spices you will have heard of, you I'm sure already implement and or at least have some idea about. But one that is like the double-edged is cayenne pepper. And the reason for that is because of the fact that cayenne pepper is one of these nightshade spices. Black pepper, technically, I believe, is as well. But the reason for that is that if it's derived from the pepper, right, it is technically a nightshade. And so for autoimmune paleo, it's a big no-no. Now, it has an anti-inflammatory benefits to it, right? If you even look up what kind of spices are healthy for you, what they do in the body to process to help. Cayenne's a big one for fat burning, right? So a lot of people that are on the weight loss track will go towards cayenne to boost the metabolism to burn fat, right? That's a big one. That's why a lot of those like pre-workout shakes have a little kick to them. But with that being said, and I'm Italian, I love an arrabbiata sauce just like the next person. Talk about an overflow of nightshades. But what I will say is that when you're thinking about this is the crux with any autoimmune conditions, when you're thinking about the immune system, for most people, you want to boost it, right? Like that's the goal. You want your immune system to be functioning at its highest capacity so that it can, ward off any intruders and keep you as healthy on the day to day so that you can remain active physically, mentally, emotionally, be in the top of your game, right? Well, when you have an autoimmune condition, it is, a double-edged sword because your body is attacking you, right? So you are now the enemy at the gates. And so when you're boosting your immune system, you're actually helping your body attack you better. So that is, the catch 22. That is the kind of tongue in cheek, laugh at the universe kind of vibe of, okay, well, so then what do we do? And so there is that conversation to be had about, a fine line. And yes, you still, for me anyway, right? I'm never going to comment. I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist, but I do pay a lot of attention and I do my own research. So I will say I'm probably slightly more informed than the average bear and definitely not as informed as a scientific bear. So this is just, I hope that this is a conversation that starts people thinking and kind of being inspired to become their own advocate for their health, whatever their health concerns. And maybe I bless and hope that you have none, but anyone that has even a mild health concern, this last year is really taking me on a journey. So I've definitely come up with some positive habits, and I think there are some things that I'm doing that are definitely more healthy for me than they have been in the past. And I just hope that that can help others to kind of, again, be your own advocate, take your health in your hands to the best of your ability, and do so from a place of conscientiousness and always from a place of balance, right? We're always, like I said with our last sequence, it's always about coming back to balance because you can't, if you eliminate everything and you can't have a potato chip, right, and you're miserable, it's not about that either. So it's about coming to a place of, finding something that works for you and knowing that if you eat the entire bag of potato chips, that's probably not in balance either. So there's an element, and I'm definitely guilty of eating a bag of potato chips. So again, zone of no judgment, but having that mindset of, okay, I'm going to make these choices on a daily basis for myself. I'm going to be consistent for myself. I'm going to make sure that I prioritize what is best for me physically, mentally, emotionally, etc. And I'm going to take the responsibility, the onus of that on for myself. Now that I've said all that, let's talk a little bit more about the spices and exactly, why they are as potentially good and or bad and or a double-edged sword. So like I said, when you're talking about the potentially anti-inflammatory, but inflammatory spices, they are your cayenne, they are your paprika, they are chili powder, red pepper, anything that comes from a pepper. If it comes from a pepper, it's technically a nightshade, and if it comes from a nightshade, then it's going to create that autoimmune response. With, I will say, the as they used to call it in high school sports, the swinger of those being the cayenne, which is if you're going to be bad to the best of your ability with the cayenne. Another one that can be on both But really, I don't even want to say that. So it's one of my favorite spices, and that is cinnamon. And I love cinnamon. So from a health perspective, it's wonderful. I have streamlined my morning beverage into just warm lemon water, but I used to do the whole cleanse with the apple cider vinegar, honey, lemon, and cinnamon. And you can also add ginger to that as well, which you guessed it is another anti-inflammatory spice that is only beneficial. Again, with the asterisk of everything that's supporting the immune system also potentially helping you attack your own body. So this whole conversation is a bit tongue in cheek because you are doing things to support yourself. And yes, these are anti-inflammatory, but also they are immune supporters. So because they are immune supporters, they could also potentially have the opposite effect. So really it's going to be a trial and error. Try it, practice what feels good, what does your body respond well to, what does your body react poorly to, and everything in moderation, right? Don't eat the whole bag of potato chips, even though every once in a while it just might happen. Then don't hold it against yourself when you do. So, talking about cinnamon, the main thing is to sum it up for you, the best choice of cinnamon, which will avoid a lot of the potential drawbacks of a daily ingested, a daily dose, if you will, of your cinnamon, is going to be opting for Ceylon. So, opting for Ceylon cinnamon, that is the I'm going to use air quotes, healthiest, and I don't want to say that because it's in air quotes. So that is going to be the cinnamon with the least potential negative side effects. So take that with a grain of salt, pun definitely intended. And if you're going to eat salt, please try to stick to your salts that have a little bit of extra benefit, aka Himalayan sea salt. Some of the really nice fancy salts that come out of Europe. I think there's like a gray sea salt from Ireland that's look for salts that have additional mineral composites in them that give you those extra added electrolytes that you need, as opposed to just your basic table salt, which is sodium and potentially very, very counterproductive to your health, especially in large quantities. So you need some amount of salt. Preferably choose one that's going to support your highest and best good. And then we're going to talk about our main one. Cinnamon is one of our main ones. Another one, obviously, is turmeric. And turmeric, when you talk about Ayurveda and you talk about turmeric, it's everywhere. I will tell you, much like the morning drink that I used to create every morning and drink. And I didn't stop it because it had a bad reaction. I didn't stop. I just edited it out to make it a little more streamlined for my hectic morning. But I encourage you, you could make yourself you could pre-make it, keep it in a jar in your refrigerator, and make it easy for yourself and continue to do that. And I will go over it once again. So essentially it is about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a good one like Bragg's, one with the mother, if you will. It's going to be a tablespoon of honey, raw organic honey, a tablespoon, probably cut that back, but you can do a full tablespoon of cinnamon. And if you wanted to, you could add ginger or turmeric to that as well. There's no problem there. But that's essentially, and then you put your lemon water in there, at least a tablespoon of lemon water, and then you add as much warm water as you can so that you can drink it quickly. Always do be mindful, those are pretty acidic things. So mindful of the enamel of your teeth if you have any teeth sensitivity to that. But that's a pretty generic recipe that's been out there for a long time to kind of start the metabolism flowing in the morning, stimulate your organs, and just kind of all around health benefit of all of those things, including getting a little probiotic boost from the with the mother. So that's the AM potential beverage. Now the PM, a way to get your daily dose of turmeric is golden milk. And I think I've mentioned this recipe before. It's not dissimilar. One of the things to know about turmeric is that black pepper, not a lot, like a pinch of black pepper, opens up the curcumin in the turmeric, which is the property that has its anti-inflammatory and health benefits. So anytime you use turmeric, you want to make sure you throw, even though it's technically, a pepper, comes from a pepper, you want to throw just a pinch of that in there to open up the benefits of the turmeric to their fullest capacity. The other thing to note with turmeric is it likes fat. So if you are going to cook with it, if you're going to make golden milk, for example, as a bedtime or pre-bedtime, soothing drink, you definitely want to use a higher fat, like skim milk is not your friend here. If you are vegan, coconut milk, definitely a good choice. Some people also will put full fat ghee. They'll put like a tablespoon of ghee or a tablespoon, maybe not a tablespoon, maybe a teaspoon of ghee or coconut oil into the golden milk, or you can just use coconut milk and keep it vegan and also get that fat component again, which kind of helps the turmeric get absorbed. So between the turmeric, and again, about a tablespoon, but your whatever scoop you use, don't overdo it, but about a tablespoon is right. And then again, if you want to throw ginger in there, you're welcome to throw ginger in there. You're going to throw another tablespoon of honey in there. You're going to use a high fat base, whether that's coconut, hopefully healthy fat. So like I said, a coconut milk is generally a good one, and the flavor profile goes pretty nicely as well. And then you're just going to do a little pinch of that black pepper. If you want to add cinnamon as well, this is another great place to do that. So now you have your AM and your PM doses of these awesome anti-inflammatory spices, which really can help the body heal, right? That's what the goal is. The goal is to help your body kind of get itself into a place where it can take care of itself, right? Our bodies are meant to heal themselves to a certain extent. Our bodies are meant to, come back to stasis, and our job as human beings with, opposable thumbs and consciousness, and in this country where I reside, we're blessed enough to have options. So many of us are. So always sending love to those that have lesser options, and hoping that you can still make healthy choices, even within your means, whatever that may look like for you. And knowing that, there are lots of websites online where you can buy bulk spices that are very, very inexpensive, as opposed to like going into, no names mentioned, but large organic food chains where you're going to get like a little thing of cinnamon this big for $10, right? Like, do your research online, make sure it's reputable. Be careful sometimes when you order off of other large distributors, you don't know what you're getting. So do try to find a reputable source for your spices. That's definitely important as well, because the quality is going to affect how your body processes it, right? So those are two great ways. We've talked a little bit about turmeric. Ginger is another big one. The anti-inflammatory, and again, most of these spices all share anti-inflammatory. That's the point of them, right? These are the ones that are going to give you antioxidants. They're going to help you protect against infection. They are all anti-inflammatory, whether it's from the curcumin, whether it's from, other kind of agents within antioxidants like cinnamon. You have polyphenols in cinnamon. Pepper contains capsaicin, which is, again, a double-edged sword. But these are the types of things that are going to help the body to, come back to that balanced place. So ginger is wonderful. Obviously, a lot of times ginger is known really for the tummy, right? Like if you have a tummy ache, you take ginger. People drink ginger ale, right, when they're not feeling well. So ginger is always known as a kind of a calmer for the stomach. It also works well for respiratory issues, from what I understand, from what I've done some reading about. And it's definitely got those anti-inflammatory benefits. So if you get some ginger, some powdered ginger, like I said, you could put it in the morning beverage. You could throw it into your golden milk. I'm preferable to the cinnamon flavor when you're talking about turmeric, but either one, go to town. You can also literally just throw some ginger in some warm water with lemon and take it with you throughout the day and just sip on it, right? That's a spice that you can do that with. I've done it with cinnamon as well, a little honey, a little cinnamon, but just find ways to, if you don't want to cook with it, find ways to, you can make a tea from it, right? There's tons of ginger teas out there. But these are just ways, as opposed to just cooking with it, right? Or if you enjoy sushi, go to sushi, get some ginger. These are just, and that'll be good because it'll be in the raw form as well. So you can always buy the roots themselves, turmeric, ginger, and cook with them. That's probably the best way because it's not processed, right? So that's one of the best ways that you can utilize them. Lastly, the big one that, again, goes back to the double-edged sword is garlic. So Italian and Spanish, I'm pretty sure it's in my blood and my pores, just from the countries from which I hail, right? And the property is Allison, which I'm probably not saying appropriately, but garlic is huge for anti-inflammation. Garlic is huge for general overall health and well-being. You can take garlic pills, right? Here's the thing about garlic. For example, the low FODMAP diet. If you follow that protocol, and that's for people who, that's a very specific diet. People that have sometimes gastrointestinal issues, Crohn's disease, people that have had certain organs removed have to follow a low FODMAP diet. And onions and garlic are one of those that fall into that category of irritation. Onion is another, and again, they're not technically spices, but they kind of are because you can't get them in spice form. So what I will say, especially when it comes, so for me, I don't completely avoid garlic, but when I can, I do. And that is because I notice that I have, in a bit of a response to that's not positive to garlic and onion. So this is one of those that I say, choose your own adventure. If you can handle it in small doses, that's great. If you can handle it cooked versus raw, that's great. If you can handle it in pill form, because it's been processed, there's a lot of garlic pills that will remove, won't make your breath smell bad, that type of thing. Then I encourage you to do that as well, because there are a host of properties that are positive that are associated with garlic, but much like cayenne pepper or peppers-based spices, it can also have the other edge of that sword and can, create some conflict within the body, which we're trying to avoid. So to recap, the ones that are, fairly pretty steadily all good for you are turmeric, ginger, Ceylon cinnamon, specifically Ceylon cinnamon. The ones that can, potentially cause some issues if you have an autoimmune condition or if you have inflammation in the body, or like I said, potential other dietary restrictions. The ones that can go either way, the swingers, are the pepper-based, right? So your cayennes, your paprikas, the onions, the garlic, which, are again like kind of a spice, kind of not a spice, more of an actual food, but it's all food, right? Whether it's a root, etc., it's all coming from the ground. But if you're going to classify, I kind of would classify them more as vegetables, but they do deserve to be mentioned in this capacity. So those are the ones. Your pepper bases, certain cinnamons, Ceylon being the one of choice. Other certain cinnamons can have some compounds in them that will potentially create, a negative effect in the body. And that's what we're trying to avoid again. So just keep the idea of the nightshade, that kind of thought process in the back of your mind. And then always be conscientious. Pay attention. That's the best way. That's what I will say about all the things, because even when you certain heat, right? Like, so let's kind of circle back with our cayenne pepper from the beginning. It creates heat in the body. It's great for your metabolism, right? If you have conditions that don't support that particular spice, green tea is a great alternative. I love Vital Proteins matcha collagen. Again, struggle with the procurement of the collagen because, again, it's certainly not vegan or vegetarian for that matter, but it has matcha in it. So it's got the component from the green tea that is also, it's got some caffeine, it's got some metabolism boosting factors. And it's definitely, I can't really call it a spice, but it is a tea, and so it deserves to be mentioned as well. And it's a great kind of other alternative to boost the heating element, right? Which is what we're kind of the common thread for our sequence this series. And also has that little added caffeine, so that even though caffeine can also have a double edge, all of it, it's very hard to find purely beneficial anything. Everything could have a potential downside, right? But that is a great counterpoint, another alternative that may serve you better than cayenne in, let's say, a pre-workout kind of shake or smoothie, a beverage that you take to kind of boost you before you kind of go and hit it hard. Or even just if you're going through your day and you're kind of having that like mid-afternoon slump and you need a little pick-me-up, hot pepper will definitely get you there, but I think the green tea will probably serve you a little bit more, give you that little pep in your step, and also help boost metabolism, which is kind of what the cayenne also does. There are some anti-inflammatory benefits as well, but like I said, the 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 takeaway here, the most important thing is that any food, any heating, any spice, anything that you put in your body, pay attention to how you feel. Immediately, in a couple hours, the next day, in that 24-hour period, pay attention. And again, if you do a cleanse or you get yourself to a place of elimination so that you can, right? So we've talked about whole food, whole 30 in the past. If you get yourself to a place of elimination of potential irritants to your body, then you can start to say, okay, well, this does bother me. This doesn't bother me. This I can handle. This I can't handle. And kind of lean into trusting your intuition and feeling, right? One of the things that I can say as a yoga instructor, and one of the things that really I kind of pride myself on is cultivating that. And I think yoga instructors are a great gateway for people to start to listen to their body, to start to tune in. That's what we do at the beginning of any yoga class. Is we take a meditation moment and we leave whatever is outside the studio, outside the door, off the mat, and it's just us and our mat. It's just us in that room with ourselves, with our body, with our mind. It's always there, right? Always running until we control it to make it stop, and be with yourself and pay attention. And the only way you can pay attention is to quiet yourself and to create practice of it. It is a practice. Everything is in life. Yoga is a practice. Nutrition is a practice. Dietary is an experimentation. It's all a practice, and it's all a fluid. What works now may not work later, right? Things change in the body, especially in women's bodies as we age and mature. And what worked when you were 20 is not going to work when you're 40, and what works when you're 40 is not going to work when you're 60, et cetera, et cetera. But always remember that aging is a privilege, not a right. So I try to do so as gracefully as possible. And I hope to, again, just share information. All I want to do is share information and again, kind of be a catalyst to people taking a moment to go, oh, hey, I for me, one of the big kickers before I started this journey was I was never a big ice cream fan because it was too cold and I'm cold all the time. So I was never really enjoyed it. Whereas my parents were huge ice cream fans. They loved it. They ate it every night. And it was just not my thing. I'm a chocolate fan. I eat chocolate every night and, dark chocolate. And it is technically a seed. So if I was autoimmune paleo, I would not be able to have it, but it is not a bean. So it is not technically a legume. So I am allowed to have it. I did a deep dive on coffee and chocolate for those two very reasons. But there was a local little ice cream shop, and in the summer I would love a mint chocolate chip shake every literally once a summer, maybe twice. And I remember a couple years ago having one, and wow, did I not feel well afterwards. And it hit me because I never consumed that much dairy in one sitting. I would eat some cheese. I would have, half and half in my coffee in the morning. I didn't drink a full glass of milk. I didn't eat a lot of cereal with milk in it. So I just never had that kind of influx of dairy. And I remember, just being like, oh my gosh, I really don't feel good. Well, what did I have? Oh, well, I had a 16-ounce ice cream. So that was a wake-up call for me. And I hope that nothing bothers your stomach, and I hope that everything that you eat serves you and that you feel wonderful all the time. But if you have one of those moments, pay attention. Pay attention to them. And like I've said in the past, I encourage you to have a journal. I encourage you to just pay attention. If nothing else, listen to your body, listen to your intuition, feel your response, and cultivate that conversation between your body and yourself. It's really, that's all we have, right? Like we have ourselves, we are our own worst enemy or our own best friend. And so I'm trying to be my own best friend, and I encourage you to do the same. I hope that for you. I want that for everyone who takes the time to listen. And I also want to tell you that how much I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing your space with me, and ask that you please feel free to share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast, and visit my website, airsaboveyoga.com. As always, please don't forget to check out my other episodes and my amazing sisters at Divas That Care. You can find us on Spotify, Odyssey, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else that you feel guided. Again, my name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground Podcast, where every day is a good one.